From the WACH Fox studios, this is On Point on WACH Fox with Cynthia Hardy.
Good morning. Welcome to On Point on WACH Fox. It is always a pleasure to bring this show to you, and we want you to take the opportunity, tune into that radio show this evening, On Point with Cynthia Hardy, heard on Sunday evenings, 6 p.m., 101.3 The Big DM. But today, on our television show, On Point on WACH, Election 2012 and older voters. What are the issues and how will older voters vote? With the largest portion of Americans being 65 years old and older, age is playing a large role in this year's election. Historically, seniors typically turn out to the polls more heavily than any other age group and have voted Republican in the last two presidential elections. According to a recent USA Today Gallup poll, most 65 and older voters support Mitt Romney, while younger adults, under 30, back President Barack Obama almost by 2-1. While seniors and baby boomers are paying very close attention to issues like Medicare and Social Security, surveys also show that economic issues are also extremely important. So today on Point on WACH, Election 2012 and older voters, what are the issues and how will they vote? Brian, it's great to have you here with us again, and I'm excited about this particular topic because it affects so many people in our community.
Yes, it does. We have a very high population in this state particularly because it's a retirement area, and it's one of the fastest growing segments of South Carolina's population is those deemed senior citizens.
Absolutely, and so as a result, our coverage needs to also reflect their issues.
We have to give them the information they need. There's an important election coming up.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about you and me being able to do this every week is we're able to provide a resource to our viewers. And last week we talked women's issues and we talked Hispanic issues. And so I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to talk senior issues today.
Yeah, we got a few more weeks to go. There's plenty more that we'll have to hammer up between now and then, but they take center stage today.
Absolutely.
So.
Speaking of center stage, I'm always happy to see Patrick Cobb, who's the Communications Director over at AARP. Welcome, brother.
Good morning. How are y'all doing? It's great to be here.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Patrick, when we talk about the senior population, this is an important block in terms of the election because all the research says if you want to see which is the most dependable segment of the population when it comes to voting, it's going to be the 65 and older crowd.
Seniors vote, and they vote often. They vote every time around. I've actually worked a precinct before as a poll worker, and the population there was a 65 plus population. They vote big numbers, they vote all the time. They like to vote, they've earned that right to vote. They want to express their right to vote.
Your parents, are they talking about the election and what they're going to do?
Always. They've always stressed to me the importance of making sure your voice is heard. Before they became part of the senior set, even beforehand, but now that they are, it's still just as important to them now as it was for all those years. They understand the importance. I think it's a generational thing. We talk about the difference between older voters and younger voters sometimes. Sometimes young people, the first-time voters, they just think, not going to make a difference. But I think people who have been around a little longer, they know it does make a big difference. And there are issues on the table that are really important to them right now that they think could be impacted. If you want to talk about some of the things that there may be.
I mean, one of the things, that we're from the AARP side of the coin, this year our issues are focusing on Medicare, Social Security, and financial security. And those issues affect any voter 18 and above because, right now you've got the security of Social Security, what's the next step in Social Security to keep it solvent for future generations. There are options on the table for both Medicare and Social Security of how to improve them and to continue those earned benefits along the way.
Well, it's really important because in addition to the block being a voting block that comes out strongly and heavily, a big portion of our budget involves things that impact our senior population. And when we talk Medicare and we talk Social Security, those are two of the biggies. What are some of the concerns? When I talk to seniors, they say to me, I don't want anybody messing with my Medicare. And I think they're really concerned that something tricky might happen in there. I'm not sure they know who to believe, the Romney-Ryan ticket or the Obama-Biden ticket.
That's one of the things we're hearing also is people like their Medicare. My parents are both 72 and Medicare is their primary source of health care. And they're like, don't change my Medicare. We like it. We like the way it works. The premium is very affordable. It's set by the federal government every year annually. And so they're like, what's the conversation that you have with an older adult or even a younger person who's saying, what's this Medicare thing and how am I going to benefit from it? But you think about it, when someone turns 65, they become eligible for Medicare, and they've got that peace of mind if they have some retiree health care insurance, which a lot of folks don't have these days. And so you've got to have some type of foundation for health care right now in this country.
It's when you think about the fact that I try to put myself in their position. If I were 65 and if I had any health condition, and by 65 most of us generally have something, you want to feel a level of comfort that you're going to be taken care of, and I think Medicare provides that.
I think it does, and this time of year specifically, or this time of season, I guess you could say, there are a lot of conflicting stories out there, and I would imagine it's difficult for a lot of people to weed out fact from fiction here. They see ads that may scare them about certain things. Do you field a lot of questions at the AARP about people wondering, what do I believe here? If it's what I'm seeing true?
Yeah, one of the things that we're saying is, these 30-second soundbite ads that candidates are putting up on both sides of the aisle, even the state races, the local races, the federal races, voters want to know what's the next step. It's the why question. If we're going to fix this, how are we going to do it? Not just saying, I'm going to fix it. How are you going to fix it? And that's the part that we want to see voters press the candidates on through our voters guide, and that we've published on with Medicare and Social Security and Financial Security as the primary conduits there. I mean, we've actually gone in and pulled candidate statements, websites, and public speeches, as opposed to posing the question, how would you fix Medicare for a 250-word canned response. We've actually gone in looking for positive statements, negative statements, what they're saying about the issues there.
Okay, so if I go to your website, then I'll be able not just to look at the issue, but see where each of the candidates fall on the issue in their own words.
Exactly, in their own words. It's one of the best voter guides I've seen in a long time, not just because I work for AARP, but because the way it's been put together, because it's in your own words. It's taken, in this day and age of, if you read it on the internet, it must be true. This is stuff that was actually, in speeches and public programs or letters or testimony. I mean, it's factual information.
I really like that, and we've gone on record, Brian and I both have. It's really important, we think, that objective information be given to the voter so they can look at it and determine how they feel about it. I don't want it spun by the time I get it.
Exactly, and that's what this is. I'm proud to say that we've done a great job of this voters guide of looking at the issues and not just saying, here's the AARP position, here's what the candidate is saying in their own words.
Sure. We're going to go to break. We want you to stay with us, though, because we need to talk Social Security. And also, we want to talk about what's on the minds of voters who are 65 years old and older. We're going to share some of the questions from some of our viewers, and we're going to get Patrick to continue our discussion, and we're going to focus on Social Security. Stay with us.
On Point on WACH Fox with Cynthia Hardy on Columbia's own WACH Fox.
Welcome back to On Point on WACH Fox. We're talking election 2012 and older voters. Brian, we're asking what are the issues and how will the senior population vote?
And we were talking before the break, talking about Social Security. We touched on it a little bit in the first segment, but of utmost importance to that segment of the population. We will talk a little bit more about that. That's why Patrick Cobb is here from AARP, because he knows the facts on this better than we do.
He knows the facts on it. They've written about it, and which is really great. Your website has all the information there about it. But when you talk, you hear people in Congress talking about Medicare, talking about Social Security, talking about entitlements, and then you hear the comment from Mitt Romney about the 47% not paying federal taxes. I said all that to say that a number of the seniors fall into that category, and I think it probably makes them want to hold on to their Social Security and Medicare just a little bit tighter, because it appears that it's almost under attack.
Well, it's an election time, and it seems that these two issues always are a part of the election conversation, and we're seeing it this year even more than we've seen in the past 4 or 8 years and the election cycles that we've seen. Social Security is so important to South Carolina as a guaranteed benefit for folks. I mean, it pumps $1 billion worth of income into the state every month.
$1 billion?
$1 billion. So when you look at the dollars and the folks who are dependent on Social Security, who've earned that, they've paid in those FICA taxes, they've paid in the Social Security taxes. I mean, it's the part that they can expect to receive back when they retire.
Brian, do you think people really recognize the fact that for many people they paid into Social Security so they've actually earned the benefit? When you start talking about entitlements and benefits like that, it has a tendency to sound like welfare.
It does, but it comes out of our paychecks.
It does.
It comes out of everything that
so we've paid for it, and so that's part of the reason.
We just hope it's there when it's our turn.
That's right.
That's the fear a lot of people have. Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that we've injuncted into this election is the conversation of how do we fix Social Security. It's very through our "You're to Say" campaign and effort. We've worked with the Brookings Institute and the Heritage Foundation to develop options out there. We put them out there on the table, hoping that our elected officials, once Congress returns, that they'll look at these things. And some of the easiest fixes is, the income cap that you pay a Social Security wage at. And our Social Security calculator, if you go online and play the game there, you can figure out your solution to Social Security. But just raising that income cap takes about 80% of Social Security solvency back to where it needs to be. So it's just interesting to see. There's so many options. It's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. What are going to be the best options and best fits to make America move forward?
And that's the reason people need to seek the information and read it and decide where they are. It's interesting too, because one of the things that you are really passionate about is to talk to people who may not quite be AARP age yet. In fact, you're younger than AARP.
Just about there.
but you want to make sure that people who are 45, even 40, recognize what AARP can do for them, because sometimes I don't think they realize.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things, people always want to know, how do you get our address? And because we're not 50 yet, but it's one of those things that we do things as an organization that we look out for folks 50 plus. I mean, that's our population, and we know that about half of our members are still working. So we're dealing with that issue of people still working, they've not retired yet. How do you plan your financial future? I mean, it's never too early to plan your financial future.
Well, I'm wondering what the best thing would be to say to seniors about the issues that are in front of them, the economy, Social Security, Medicare, as they are trying to make up their minds about what to do about this election.
30-second sound bites are just not the answer. You research, do your homework. If you see it on the internet, it may not be true. That's one of the things with the email of today. Make sure, ask candidates questions, call their campaign offices, read their literature, read their websites, do your homework before you vote.
And it looks like this population is a population that doesn't mind doing that.
No, very engaged, very engaged. You very often, if you go to even campaign events, when the candidates make their rounds through South Carolina, a large portion of those people are from the senior citizen population. They're very interested in what's going on.
Absolutely. I've got a group in my neighborhood that go to a certain restaurant and they sit around, drink coffee, and that's
talk.
And talk.
And talk
and that's
politics,
the political crew. Yeah. And you can walk in any day. They got the newspaper sitting right there. They're drinking coffee.
And the newspaper. That's the
and
key
the
phrase.
This is
Yes.
true. And they are they're talking politics, and they're really concerned about what's in front of them. And they're all retirees,
right.
because that's what they do in the mornings. They don't go to the office.
They don't go to the office.
They go to the spot.
I've seen a couple of groups like that too, and it's fun. You'd like to be a fly on the wall just to listen to the conversation.
Yeah,
because they've been there, done that, and they have the experience, and they're going to realize, this is how it needs to work, and this is what it works for me, and here's how it works, and make it happen.
Yeah, I believe they're solving all the world's problems.
Oh, I think
just
you're
sitting
right.
there, doing that. But I think that's really important too. It makes the case that there's so many seniors that are engaged, and they know what the issues are, they know what the questions are, and when it comes time to vote, they're going to be there front and center. I have seen, though, recently a little bit of concern about whether or not our candidates are putting enough focus on what the senior issues are, because there's just not enough talk about it. And I imagine, Brian, one of the reasons that we don't hear as much is because it's hard to talk about it, because it's such a controversial thing, and both of the candidates want very, very much to get that block.
Well, a case in point, the debate, the Denver debate that was last week, did not include, the original agenda was to include Medicare and Social Security, was not included, and it's part of the debate lineup, and those are two key issues in this election. And
you know why they weren't? Because neither side they don't want to be defeated by that, because that would be a huge defeat.
And you never know what the soundbite one candidate takes from the other candidate, and they use it back and forth. And we've seen some of the worst political ads and political strategy in this election cycle.
That's true. Final comment, Patrick, from you?
ARP's voter guide is at earntosay.org. Read it and digest it.
That sounds good. All right. Thank you, Patrick Cobb,
Thank you.
the Communications Director from AARP. Oh, we're going to switch gears when we come back. We know that in the presidential election, both candidates, as we mentioned, are vying for the age 65 and older vote. But I've got two ladies, Janet Holliday and Margie Wimberly Toms, that are the hosts of a popular TV show, Senior
We have it right here.
That comes on Wednesdays on this station. And I didn't want to do this show without them. So they're going to add real perspective on the senior issues. I want you guys to stay tuned and watch them.
You're watching On Point on WACH Fox with Cynthia Hardy on Columbia's own WACH Fox.
Welcome back to On Point on WACH Fox. We're talking election 2012 and older voters. We're asking what are the issues and how will that population vote?
A great deal. Patrick Cobb from the AARP was here, gave us some good facts and some good information that people can find online through their website. Unbiased information, nonpartisan, just some of the facts. But now we've invited our friends from Senior Connections in here. That airs, of course, right here on WACH Fox on Wednesdays. And I think they can add another dimension to this conversation about what is really going to resonate with the senior population this election cycle, which is what, almost 30 days away or so at this point.
That's right.
Definitely.
Well, we got Margie Wimberly-Toms with us, and we have Janet Holliday. Thank you, ladies, both for being here.
Yes.
Our pleasure.
Yes,
Well, you know, we
thank
watch you guys, and we recognize that you all are upfront and personal with the senior population. We recognize that when you're in the grocery store, I know they stop you. I know they do. And they ask you questions about issues and things like that. You heard us talking to Patrick Cobb from AARP about what the senior issues are. Do you concur with what we're saying about Social Security, Medicare?
Absolutely.
Big issues?
Absolutely.
What are the fears?
Probably one is with Medicare cutbacks, that you're not going to have access to your own physician. I mean, I hear that all the time, that physicians aren't accepting Medicare patients.
Yeah, that's alarming.
Well, they're not accepting them now.
Right. Right.
That's very, very scary, absolutely. But most of them just don't, they want their Medicare left alone. Do what you want with other things, but Medicare and Social Security don't touch. This is what the average senior will tell you. And they're frightened, they really are.
It's a lifeline.
Yes, it is.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. I mean, obviously, I think I was at a conference the other day, and Palmetto Health was saying that 65% of their admissions are folks 60 years of age and older. So when you have that kind of concentration in the medical, in hospitals, of course Medicare is going to be a big issue.
I think that's why we see so much. Well, we're not seeing the focus now, like Patrick pointed out. It was not part of the debate, but you see this in a lot of the ads, a lot of the attack ads. They try to play on those fears.
Oh, they do. It's real bad.
It is bad on both sides too. Both
Plus
sides do
it's confusing.
it. Yeah. So I was going to say, people
know?
people get scared by this, and how do they figure out what's real and what isn't? That would be the fear I would have.
Yeah. How do you figure out what's real and what isn't? What does the population say?
Well, and we were talking before we went on about the use of the internet, and I said that a lot of seniors, especially in our rural areas, don't use dial-up. They just don't have access to Time Warner cable or Road Runner or whatever the case may be. And it is so hard. A lot of them don't even take the papers anymore because of the expense or because maybe they can't read the paper any longer. So really their whole source of information is television.
It's 30-second ads.
Sure, absolutely.
And so that's concerning. Margie, you were going to say
Well,
something?
being a senior myself, it kind of worries me sometimes in terms of Social Security. But me personally, if they want to change the age, I would go for it. Absolutely, if it's going to make things easier, because something has to happen. So many of the young people today, the baby boomers, don't even think Social Security is going to be around when they need it. It's frightening to hear. My daughter says that all the time, her and her husband.
It's interesting because what you're saying is there's been talk about changing the entry age to Social Security, and you'd be all right if they say, okay, no, it's no longer 65, now it has to be 72.
She'd be okay if it was 80, because she's
but I'm saying, and a number of seniors might feel the very same way. If it's going to make it better for everybody.
Give a little, perhaps, you know.
Well, we're living longer. I mean, it's just absolutely living longer. And that's another issue for me. The economy, when it comes to the economy and the election and the senior population, you got to be thinking about the fact that even at 70, there's a lot more fight left in a lot of us. And so, and people are working into their 70s. And because they are, you want the economy to be good and have some kind of job, right?
Sure, sure. And sometimes people don't have a choice, you know, especially you may have a retirement plan, but the way the economy is today, that's not enough, you know, to make ends meet. So so your budget will not run out. Sometimes you've got to have that part-time job. I work part-time myself. I'm 79 years old. All right, I don't plan on stopping, but the money is nice, the extra money is nice, and that's the way a lot of seniors feel.
Well, you know,
as long as you're healthy, as long as you stay healthy.
And I've also heard people say they don't want to stop because you don't want to stop because that helps to keep everything going well, just moving and going. You know, and
your mind alert.
All of those things. I would just hate to think that there'd be an age when I would have to go home because there's some law that says that I have to.
I always tell them, I don't believe in retirement. That's just a figment of your imagination. You know, move on to something else, but continue to do something. Don't just stop. I can't imagine.
Yes.
We're going to go to break. We're going to come back and continue this conversation with Margie Toms and with Janet Holliday. You guys stay with us. We're talking election issues and the senior population.
You're watching On Point on WACH Fox with Cynthia Hardy on Columbia's own WACH Fox.
You know about
Welcome
that.
back to On Point on WACH Fox. Brian McConkie and I are talking to Janet Halliday and Margie Wimberly Toms from Senior Connections about senior issues and the issues that are important to voters.
And the fears that are out there about
Yes.
misconceptions about some of the things they see, some of the information that's out there, some of the misinformation that might be out there that you see in the 30-second TV ads that a lot of people base a lot of opinions on.
Sure, sure. Talk about that a little bit, would you, Margie? The things that, the confusion, the things that are in the marketplace that could be confusing to some seniors.
Well, as I think Janet was saying in reference to the Medicare, all right, there was, well, that other old adage is out now where they talk about your grandmother being pushed over the hill or something. We don't hear about that anymore.
No, we don't
Thank
hear about
God.
it, but
You
that
know?
had to
You
be.
think it's still the
But that had to be kind of, I don't know, undaunting. I mean, you know, to see yourself in that position, because with this, I've often heard people say that we are one of those countries that doesn't value our elders enough. That there are other
Absolutely.
countries that value their elders a whole lot more. Do you feel that way? And is part of what you're looking for in a candidate someone who you feel like really values you, really gets it?
very important, absolutely, you know, and say what they mean, or just don't talk off the top of their head and not because this is what you want to hear, but we want to hear what they mean and that it's going to be put into action no matter who becomes the president. That's the important thing. Truth is very important. Honesty is very important. That's what people want to hear, you know.
You know, when I hear about the photo voter ID laws, a lot of people indicate senior populations might be displaced if that law went into effect in South Carolina. Janet, I'll ask you that question and then get Margie to follow up.
Well, I think that seniors want the people that are supposed to vote, whether that requires an ID or some other form that positively identifies them as a true voter. I think that they want to maintain the integrity of our voting privileges.
You know, Margie, do you have the same perspective?
Well, I think most people want to stay the way it is, okay? It's less confusing. As long as you've been registering to vote and then you're allowed to go stand online and vote, what's the problem? And that's what I think most seniors, it's easier for them. Some seniors, when they want you to get this ID, sometimes there are more steps to that ID that you have not been doing before, you know. Birth certificates, I believe, and this and that, and so many people, particularly in the southern areas, don't even have birth certificates, all right? So there are many angles that come into play, you know, with this new supposedly voter ID law.
That isn't in effect yet.
You know?
That could be in effect by November, but we're not quite sure yet. We're watching the courts to see what the
They
courts
haven't
do.
decided on it yet. I also watch the newspaper to make sure that I'm aware that when they hopefully reject it, we'll all be happy.
Tell us how you feel
That's
about
my
it. All
point
right.
of view. Where she
You
stands
have
on
a
that.
photo ID.
That's
We
my-
don't have that. You're driving.
You know,
point of
and then
view.
the other thing I wanted to ask you guys about too, do you think it will have the effect of keeping some seniors from the polls?
Yes, it will, I believe.
I mean, even at this point, if it doesn't, will the confusion do that? The confusion alone?
It could be. Could be. That confusion could very well be there because first it's supposed to be this and now it's changed, but some other things may still be going on out there, ads and things, where it could be confusing, you know?
But I think what you're counting on is the determination of the bloc and the fact that the 65 and older crowd believes that they kind of lead the charge when it comes to making the decision about who's going to be the president.
Well, oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we do Seniors Connections. We know that's the powerful block. Fastest growing demographic in the country. I mean, what, we have 10 million folks every day turning 65.
10 million people
For the
every
next
day?
30 years. So
Janet, that's quite a statistic.
It is, and that's frightening because I tell people every day, I equate it to, you saw that beautiful island of Japan before the tsunami? We're not ready for what's coming. We have never ever had anything like this with the type of impact, both from Medicare, Social Security, all of those things going forward. I don't think that our country has given really thought to what we're dealing with.
And that's going to have to be the final comment. Ladies, thank you, Janet and Margie. Thank you guys for being with us. Time to pass. Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Margie. That's it for this edition of On Point on Watch Fox. Send us your comments, suggestions to onpointwithcynthia.com. Go to our Facebook page and leave your comments. Brian, do you just love this every week?
This is fun.
Yeah, this is
especially when
fun.
they come in.
You guys, we believe when you're informed, you're empowered. Once empowered, you are on point. Bye-bye. See you next week.
We'll be back next week to figure this out here.
Why not?
But when you think 10,
Ladies, sit down, Margie.
are turning 65.